If a person wants to truly disappear, to go to a place where no one can hear them scream, and no one will ever find the body, there is only one spot on the map. It is not a forest, and it is not a desert on land. It is a spot in the South Pacific Ocean called Point Nemo. The coordinates point to the absolute middle of nowhere. To the north, there is nothing. To the south, nothing. East and west, just thousands of miles of rolling, empty blue waves. If a sailor falls off a boat here, the closest humans are not on the nearest island, because the nearest island is over 1,600 miles away. The closest humans are floating 250 miles overhead, looking down from the window of the International Space Station. That is how lonely this place is. You are closer to space than you are to civilization, because this spot is the geographic definition of isolation. Humanity decided to turn it into a garbage dump, but not for plastic bottles or soda cans. This is the graveyard for the heavy metal of the space age. When a satellite dies, when a space station becomes obsolete, the space agencies do not want it crashing into a city. So they do the math. They aim for Point Nemo. They steer the dying machines into the atmosphere at a precise angle, ensuring the burning wreckage falls into the one place on Earth where it won't hit a house. For 50 years, we have been raining fire and titanium into the deep. Imagine the scene from the surface. It is a quiet, gray Tuesday. The swells are huge rolling hills of water that have traveled uninterrupted around the globe. The wind howls with a hollow, lonely sound. Suddenly, the clouds break. A streak of fire tears the sky open. It is a returning cargo ship, or maybe a defunct spy satellite. It screams through the atmosphere, breaking into pieces. Sonic booms slap the water like the hand of a giant. Huge chunks of metal, glowing red-hot, slam into the ocean. Steam hisses. Huge geysers of water shoot up, and then silence returns. The waves cover the scar. The violence is over, but underwater, the journey is just beginning. The debris sinks. It falls through the sunlight zone, past the tuna and the sharks. It falls through the twilight zone. It keeps going until it hits the abyssal plain, 4 kilometers down. Down here, it is pitch black. The water is freezing, and the floor is not empty. It is a museum of failures. Twisted solar panels, crushed fuel tanks, the skeletal remains of the Mir space station. It is a landscape that looks like a sci-fi war zone. Scientists call this area a biological desert. They say the currents here, the South Pacific gyre block nutrients from entering. They say the water is too old, too still, and too poor to support life. They say nothing lives here except maybe a few bacteria and some sea sponges. But scientists are often wrong about the resilience of life. Nature hates a vacuum. If there is a space, something will occupy it. And if there is a new resource, something will learn to eat it. The resource here is shelter. In the flat, featureless mud of the abyss, a giant hollow tube from a rocket booster is a palace. It offers protection from the current. It offers a hiding spot. But there is something else. The fuel, the batteries, the radioactive heating units. These machines are not clean. They leak. They seep chemicals into the water. Hydrazine, beryllium, nuclear isotopes. Toxic stuff. On land, this kills. Down here, in the dark, it acts as a dinner bell for the strange. Evolution usually takes millions of years. But sometimes, when the pressure is on, it moves fast. The creatures here have adapted to a world that didn't exist a century ago. They are the mutants of the deep. Let's look at the squatters. A shape moves near the wreckage of a Russian fuel tank. It looks like an octopus, but it is wrong. The skin is pale, translucent, revealing the pulsing organs inside. It doesn't have suction cups. It has hooks. Hard, chitinous hooks that can grip the smooth, slippery surface of aluminum and steel. This creature doesn't hunt fish. It scrapes. It feeds on the bacterial mats that grow on the leaking metal. These bacteria are extremophiles, eating the corrosion, turning rust and chemical leaks into energy. The octopus eats the bacteria. It is a food chain built entirely on space trash. That the silence of the graveyard is heavy. Occasionally, the metal groans. The pressure is immense, constantly squeezing the hollow parts of the wreckage. A piece of a solar array snaps. The sound travels fast in the water. It attracts attention. From the darkness, long, spindly legs appear. A crab, but one with legs that span 5 feet. It moves with a jerky, robotic rhythm. It climbs over the debris of a satellite dish. Its shell is not just calcium. It has incorporated traces of the metals found in the environment. It is partially plated in the very junk it lives in. A cyborg crab, toughened by the pollution. This ecosystem is isolated. The creatures here cannot leave. If they swim 1,000 miles in any direction, they starve. They are trapped in this island of trash. This leads to intense competition. It leads to cannibalism. It leads to gigantism. When resources are scarce and the population is small, the ones that survive are the ones that get big and bully the others. There is a rumor among deep-sea explorers about the occupant of the Mir wreckage. Mir was massive. When it came down in 2001, huge chunks survived the burn. There are modules down there that are still intact, like underwater caves. Something has moved in. Sonar scans show movement inside the tubes. Something long. Something that coils. It isn't an eel. Eels need oxygen-rich water. This thing barely breathes. It has a slow metabolism, lying in wait inside the titanium shell of the space station, waiting for a smaller scavenger to wander in, looking for shelter. It is the trapdoor spider strategy, but on a massive scale. The irony is palpable. We send these machines to space to look for life. We send them to Mars to look for bacteria. We listen for radio signals from aliens. And then, when the machines die, we throw them into the ocean, where they become the home for the most alien-looking things on our own planet. We are creating our own aliens. We are feeding them. The chemical leakage creates a halo around the graveyard. The water tastes metallic. It tastes of electricity. To a shark from the surface, this would be repulsive. But to the Point Nemo locals, this is the smell of home. It signals safety. It signals heat. Some of the nuclear batteries from old satellites still generate a faint warmth. In the near-freezing water, that warmth is life. You can imagine a cluster of pale, eyeless worms huddling around a decaying radioisotope thermal generator, warming themselves on the radioactive decay of a dead. Stardust tracker. The isolation of Point Nemo means that these creatures have never seen a human. They have never seen a net. They have never seen a hook. Their only contact with humanity is the violence of the falling sky. Every few months, the roof explodes and a new piece of real estate slams into the mud. It must be a terrifying mythology for them. The gods above are angry, and they throw fire. But the fire brings gifts. It brings new caves. New metal. The narrative shifts to a future event. The International Space Station, the ISS, is scheduled to be decommissioned. It is the biggest thing we have ever put in orbit. When it comes down, it will aim for Point Nemo. It will be the biggest meal the graveyard has ever seen. The impact will be massive. But after the dust settles, the colonization will begin. The creatures will swarm it. The pale octopuses, the metal-plated crabs, the worms that eat toxic sludge. They will explore the corridors where astronauts once slept. They will lay their eggs in the control modules. They will turn the pinnacle of human engineering into a reef of monsters. The ISS will not die. It will just change management. There is a psychological weight to this place. It is the drain of the world. All the currents push water here, but nothing leaves. It is a stagnant loop. It feels cursed. Sailors avoid it not just because of the lack of wind, but because of the vibe. The water looks different. It looks darker, thicker. It holds secrets. And what about the sound? In 1997, a famous bloop sound was recorded near here. Scientists said it was ice. But standing in the context of the graveyard, one has to wonder. With all that metal, all that hollow tubing, all that strange biology, maybe the sound wasn't a creature screaming. Maybe it was the graveyard itself settling. Or maybe, just maybe, something that has been growing in the shelter of the debris for 50 years finally got big enough to make a noise. The visual of a satellite dish, sitting upright in the mud, staring blindly into the dark water, is haunting. It used to listen to the stars. Now it listens to the silence of the deep. A jellyfish drifts past it. But this jellyfish is bioluminescent, glowing with a sickly green light, perhaps a side effect of the chemical soup it swims in. It pulses past the NASA logo, which is slowly being eaten away by a rust-eating fungus. The story of Point Nemo is not just about pollution. It is about resilience. It proves that life is stubborn. You can throw it in the deepest hole, starve it, freeze it, and drop toxic metal on its head, and it will not just survive. It will decorate its house with the wreckage. We look up at the stars and dream of colonization. Meanwhile, down in the crushing dark, the colonization has already happened. The trash of the explorers has become the treasure of the monsters. And they are waiting for the next shipment from the sky, waiting for the day we finally stop sending junk and maybe, just maybe, come down to visit. And if we do, we might find that the owners of the space station don't speak English, and they certainly don't come in peace.